Have you ever seen a consolidation work when one district is not interested? One school board is not interested?
I can't say that I have. The only ones I know, when I started in the regional office 6 years ago, there were 861 districts, something like that. And now there are 852. So those few consolidations in the last 6 years, when I've been watching more closely, have all been consensual. Both sides of the district, both districts said, yeah, this is a good idea, let's work together. And so what that did, I mean, you can imagine that when we do, as administrators, when we do teacher contracts or contracts with the copiers, we tend to involve our attorneys in making sure the T's are crossed, the I's are dotted. So all of those discussions are going to involve some legal fees. And so, if the two districts are working together, they're splitting those costs, so they're using one attorney instead of two. And so if they're planning it together, it tends to be far more efficient. If the districts are saying we're not interested, and it's that second option where community members are, it becomes even more complicated because community members are going to have access to all the documentation to be able to make all those decisions. So depending on those relationships, that could be several different FOIAs, or it could be some kind of sharing, because you're going to need all those pieces, especially if the district's not interested. And I've been told, I believe that both boards have been asked. Benoyer's been asked, are you interested? And District 80's been asked if they're interested. I think they're kind of mixed reviews. I think it's not 100% they're thrilled about working together on this project. So it would take something to get to that point. Is that a politically correct way to answer that question? It's like, put on my dancing shoes a little bit, yes?
I was looking at a basis of commonality. Mm-hmm. Suppose Harwood Heights, since they feed into Richwood, and School District 80 were to combine and consolidate. The three of them or two of them or however combination. I mean, that might be a little more workable than Benoyer because they want to go to Maine South. Actually, Maine South should probably ask to consolidate with Benoyer because then they're getting their tax money. But I mean,
right.
I think we'd be more agreeable with commonality than with, Benoyer, for example.
And so, it raises a good question that whomever is starting the process of petition, there's got to be a goal in sight, or several goals. One goal that was mentioned was, the economy of size and saving money. To be frank, a couple people have said to me on the phone that there's concerns about the age of the buildings. So is there a way to address the age of the buildings when it's been in the news that we might need to upgrade, or there was a referendum to build a new school? So, what do we want to accomplish? If we know what we want to accomplish through this, it helps us in terms of building our petition. So commonality or curriculum or whatever those may be, finances, if you've got some goals in sight that you're aiming for, it helps you ask the right questions as you're designing the petition. And so whoever is pushing that, the examples I gave you from the rural areas, their goal is just survival. How do we provide something for kids? Because the numbers were dwindling away. So they knew what they needed to accomplish. If you come up with an idea of 1, 2, 5 goals, this is the purpose of consolidating. That helps you frame. And who would be involved? I think just being really transparent, people have talked to me about 1, 2, 3, or 4 districts combining. And I think different people have thought about different configurations. Now you can imagine it's exponential. The more you want to change or more people you're going to include, it raises, complicates all of these. And it always goes back to, when I visit any of the schools we're talking about, parents say to me, we love our school. I get that a lot. Communities own their schools here. and they like that local control. They like being able to have Italian if they want to have Italian, or they have a preschool if they want to have a preschool, but they're making those decisions for their kids locally. Now, in a new district, they could still be involved. I mean, that doesn't stop you from being involved in a new. But I do know when you get to the voting that a lot of parents I've talked to love their school locally. And that would be part of the discussion, those town hall meetings or however you're going to do that. Yes.
It's not about saving money. It's about not being taxed to death. Last year there was a petition or a referendum on our voting thing. If it would have passed, the average house, $400,000 or more, I don't know off the top of my head, would have paid an extra $2,500 for Penoyer. $2,500 more. Now, the Trump administration with the new Republican tax plan capped your deductions at $10,000. That includes what you pay in taxes for work, what your wife pays, and your property taxes. So if you go over $10,000 by the $2,500, you lose $2,500. It's not where you could be deducted on your federal taxes.
Right.
You can't. It's not saving money. It's not being taxed to death. We're at the max tax right now. This is a blue-collar community. I don't live in Wilmette, Winnetka. You know what I'm saying? So, and some of us have reached retirement age, but not enough to get to Social Security. So we're in a twilight zone. We're not getting extra income.
Sure.
So you can't keep on taxing us. And now Maine South wants to put an extra tax because they want another $250 million that'll cost each one of us in that district an extra $958 that we can't deduct thanks to the federal government. You know what I'm saying? So we can't.
Absolutely.
There has to be a solution. Yeah, you like your school district. Sure, the kids have to learn, but hey, we have to stop this max tax. When I go to Cook County to pay my tax at Skokie District, it says they got a big sign up there. 62% of my tax bill goes to the school district. 62%. Now they want 70, 75. No, it's got to stop somewhere. There has to be a momentum, a generation. You know what I'm saying?
Sure. And I think, the voters have spoken recently all across the state. This isn't just this area. What you're sharing, I've heard this in Carbondale, and I've heard it in Rockford, that this is a common concern. And it's hard. I mean, I understand. My kids are now out of school, but I pay for the kids who live right down the block. So I get that. And you're not alone in that sentiment. The community has to decide if consolidation is an answer to, if that's one of our goals, that's something the community voters would decide after they've gone through the steps. So
there is a potential that tax rate can stay the same. So I mean, based on the way that it's done, potential for the tax rate to stay the same.
Absolutely, and I'm glad you said that. I don't want to give any.
Just the other side of the coin.
Yep. Yeah, I like to share what I've seen, but you're exactly right. It boils down to how that formula becomes established. And who's ever designing the petition, you're making decisions that would end up impacting it.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
Is it common for a geographical area like ours, where we have approximately 14,000 to 15,000 residents, to have two different school districts and three different buildings for 1,600 kids? I can understand, like in a rural area where you had, but I don't know what our square mileage is in Norris. 2.5 miles, 3 miles,
Right.
and we have two districts and three buildings. Is that common?
It's more common than you'd think. Like Skokie, for instance, has 5 school districts in one town.
The population of
It's bigger than this, but the same idea. I mean, in terms of density, there are districts that are 500. Golf is 450, something like that. So it's not totally uncommon. Again, it's back to that kind of local control. That's a weird thing, because then you've got like Barrington or Arlington Heights or, Elgin. I used to be associated with King County. Elgin's got.
Population of Skokie was 64,270.
Sorry.
That was awesome. Yeah. Thank you. Modern technology. That's right. My next presentation, I just put Siri up there. Yeah, it's an interesting thing in Cook County. We have some very, very large districts. I was starting to talk about Elgin. Something like 52 buildings in Elgin, second largest in the state. It's huge. Just interesting, back to density, one of my favorite facts. Suburban Cook County last year had more students than Chicago. So if you take suburban Cook County, our 3 offices, it's a little over 400,000 students. That 400,000 in suburban Cook County, there are 2.2 million in the state. So we're almost 20% of the state in these 3. So the density issue is one that we constantly deal with. So in some places, yes, some places, no. A place like Arlington Heights, Palatine, that have large districts with lots of schools. It's really a matter of history and where that's. And as you come closer to the city, and there's more, and they're older. So the schools were established 100 years ago. It wasn't a farm field that became a bunch of subdivisions, and they have 37 schools. So it's a historical thing. It's not so uncommon, but the state is very diverse that way.